The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
All right, time for a live look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index is currently trading at 33,400 and change. Bitcoin is slightly down for the day, about 85 basis points, and the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index is at 2103. We're seeing ETH down almost 1% over the day. All right, and joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Jim Rogers, famed commodities investor, author, and co-founder of Quantum Fund, along with his partner, George Soros. Welcome to the show, Jim. And so, all right, the SEC says Bitcoin is a commodity. You are an expert in commodities. So I wonder if you agree, and if so, how does it move compared to other commodities out there?
Well, if you mean a commodity in the sense that everything is a commodity, you're right. But it's in the sense of normally used by commodities, things that grow or that you can, metals or energy or something. I don't think many people would call it a commodity yet. It may become a commodity, no. But it certainly moves much more dramatically and much more excitingly than cotton or some of the other commodities that are out there. Sure, of course, some days lumber skyrockets and some days collapses. But the cryptocurrencies seem to be have been anyway, much more exciting as trading vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
now,
Jim, good to see you.
You said that you regret not buying Bitcoin, and yet you're warning governments may outlaw cryptocurrencies. You know, shots have been fired like this by many investing giants, most recently Ray Dalio, who told CoinDesk earlier this year that Bitcoin's greatest risk is its success and that governments can ban it if it became too successful. But we're seeing that play out right now. You know, China has been banning Bitcoin every year. It hasn't gone away, and El Salvador is adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. So outlawing Bitcoin has, you know, been seen as kind of like outlawing the internet. You can try, but it's a game of whack-a-mole.
When I said I regret I hadn't bought it, listen, anything that goes from $1 to $60,000, I don't care what it's called, I wish I'd bought it. Are you kidding? Anything. That's what I meant when I said I wish I'd bought it. Maybe I would have made a little money or not. And I'm delighted El Salvador is doing this, but if you're hanging your hat on El Salvador, with all due respect, it's a nice place to go and visit, but it's a country of 6 million people with not much stability and not a lot of smart leadership. So I would hope that somebody would find a better place than El Salvador to use. I mean, China, as you point out, China's essentially banning Bitcoin. Between China and El Salvador, China is much more important.
So, Jim, great seeing you again. What happened? How did you finally go, you know what, all right, fine, I'll look at Bitcoin. It's at least of interest. I mean, are you putting any money in it now, or are you just still on the sidelines here?
No, I have never bought nor sold any cryptocurrency, neither long nor short. I have been observing for a long time, since early years. But no, again, you had an earlier guest who was talking about the value. I still haven't seen any value here. He was talking about currencies, fiat currencies. I mean, fiat currencies have no value either, except somebody says they have value. The difference is, of course, that fiat currencies are backed by governments all over the world. That gives it value, whether we like it or not. I don't know who gives cryptocurrencies value except some players on the internet.
But do you see that the scarcity argument made about Bitcoin, that there are only 21 million that will ever be minted, as far as, for now at least, that argument for any kind of commodity where there's scarcity, be it gold or any hard commodity, and given the Fed and the federal government's expansion policies, do you see that as potentially continuously adding bullish momentum to any of those hard commodities and Bitcoin?
Well, supply and demand are obviously important for everything we do in life. And yes, I mean, there is a scarcity of Bitcoin, but unless there's somebody going to buy it, Lawrence, what difference does it make? I mean, who cares? And we'll see. If the government somehow or another say, guys, you cannot use Bitcoin, I suspect most people will not use it. Now, I certainly won't if it's against the law. I'm not suggesting it is against the law. No, no. A lot of my friends are have made a lot of money in it. But if, the crypto guys say, this is going to be currency and we're going to replace currencies. Let's say they're successful. Lawrence, my view is if they're successful, governments are going to say, no, you're not. Governments don't like to lose their monopoly. Governments don't like to lose their control. The US dollar is going to be on the phone soon. All governments are working on it right now. And I cannot imagine that if the US dollar says, okay, here's the US dollar now, this is where it is. But if you want to use that currency over there, you can use it. That's not what history shows that governments do. Well, El Salvador, yes. But China, US, others, I doubt it.
Well, the thinking is that El Salvador is the seed that will eventually grow, that Bitcoin is for the unbanked, and that this will be a domino effect of sorts, a ripple effect around the world for countries that feel, or countrymen who feel disenfranchised by their governments and central banks, and their currencies are worth nothing.
Christine, hooray! Let's hope it happens, because then you'll have a long, long program. You'll have job security if that happens. We will all be watching CoinDesk the rest of our lives. We'll see. My reading of history is that's unlikely, and certainly my reading of history is that El Salvador has rarely, if ever, been a trendsetter that the world followed. But it's a great country. You should go and visit. It's a wonderful, wonderful country.
Theme music.
Yeah. Going back to the government ban question, I mean, do you really think it's realistic that the United States would actually try to prevent people from buying or selling Bitcoin? I mean, the United States and China are obviously very different. And in the US, you have these really big institutions. Companies putting Bitcoin on their portfolios. I mean, do you really think that's a realistic prediction for the United States?
Good questions. What I said was if it becomes successful as a currency, I doubt if the US governments are going to say, okay, you can compete with our currency and use it instead of ours. That's an entirely different thing from being a trading vehicle. If it's a trading vehicle, who cares? By all means, anybody can have anything they want to trade. People used to trade eggs. Nobody objected if people traded eggs. They did have a use. No, Christine, I am not suggesting that the government has a reason, except for the fact that it might become a competitor, and then the government is going to act. That's the way these guys in Washington and Rome and London think. I don't particularly like the fact that we cannot have competing currencies, but they have the guns. I don't have any guns. And if they say it's against the law, I doubt if I'm going to use it. Or if they put on other regulations.
Given the risks that you just pointed out, say, a young person comes out to you and they say, okay, I'm just starting my portfolio. Like, what percentage would you advise that they put into cryptocurrency, or should they put anything into cryptocurrency?
Well, my answer to that would be you have to make your own decision and invest in what you know about. I have zero, and I've never had zero, long nor short, any cryptocurrencies. I wish I'd bought Bitcoin at $1. I'd be rich now, but I didn't. It's not my first mistake, Christine. I made many mistakes in my life.
So, Jim, looking at let's step back and look at the global macro picture, but particularly in the United States, we have the government, of course, looking to get involved in more spending. We have the Fed saying that, all right, they're going to be a little bit more hawkish now than they were a few weeks ago. So be it. But do you see us going into kind of like a Japan-style post-1990 malaise that could last for decades, or do you see us potentially just inflating our way out of this?
We already are inflating our way out of it, Lawrence. Open up the newspaper or the TV and you'll see America's never printed so much money in recorded history. America's never, ever been no country has ever been so deep in debt. as the United States is right now. We're inflating as fast as we can, printing, but not just America. I mean, the head of the Bank of Japan goes to work every day, and his word is he's going to print unlimited. That's the word he uses, unlimited amounts of money. This is happening all over the world. Is it good for the world? Absolutely not. Your view, or someone there, view is at Coinbase. The view is it's good for cryptocurrencies. We will find out. We will definitely find out. It's certainly not good for paper money, but in the end, it never has been. It's always led to other uses, other things.
But can we just see just a long-term malaise?
In the 1920s, the United Kingdom was the largest number one country in the world, the richest, most powerful country in the world. There was no number two. Lawrence, 50 years later, it was bankrupt. IMF had to fly into London airport and bail them out. They went from number one with no competitor to bankrupt in 50 years. That could very well happen to the United States. It's happened to many, many countries in history. You mentioned Japan. I mean, Japan has had 30 years of lost decades now. Things have been dismal there. At the moment, they're printing a lot of money. Markets are rallying. But I would suspect that 50 years from now, 20 years from now, we'll look back and say, boy, that was a great country. Unbelievably good sushi. It's too bad about Japan.
Jim, that's a dismal outlook. But I'm wondering, what do you see value in right now? Then, as an investor, what are you investing in?
Right now, I find agriculture and agriculture is something you can use. I mean, we can use wheat or cotton or whatever it happens to be. I'm not sure how we can use cryptocurrencies. Agriculture has been a disaster for decades. I would much prefer myself to buy agriculture than to buy cryptocurrencies. But Christine,
right.
Don't listen to me. Let people invest in what they know about and what they want.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see about that. People still want to attain the success that you've achieved over the years. So we'll have an ear for you and what you have to say.
I have made many mistakes in my life. You want to hear about my first wife? Oh my gosh, what a mistake that was.
That's for the next show.
What a horrible mistake that was.